everyone, welcome back to Tech Engineering Lounge. I'm your usual host, Camy and alongside me, I've got our usual other co-host, James S1E9. James, welcome back. How you've been? It's good?
I've been good, apart from my internet clearly doing funny things. But doing well, gearing up for the end of the year. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Mount Maunganui.
It's a sunny day here in Wellington as well. I'm excited today because I've got my friend Pablo that I work with at BNZ joining us today for a discussion on systems thinking. Welcome to the show, Pablo. How are you?
Very well, thank you. And thank you for inviting me to join you in this conversation. I've been thinking about this day, for weeks now since we talked about it, and I've been very excited. Now thinking in the background, all right, what are the things that we would talk about? So I'm glad that the day has come. So,
I know, because we had to reschedule a couple of times, so it's been like a couple of months, or probably more, but it's given you good time to prepare. So, hey, before we kick off, Pablo, we want to introduce you. So Pablo is an engineering lead at Bank of New Zealand. Your expertise is mostly in APIs, which is why I thought you would be the best person to talk about systems thinking. Do you want to tell us a bit more about you?
Yeah, sure. Well, as I said, I work for BNZ. For a few years now. Before, always as an engineer lead. Engineer leads at BNZ we're not the typical tech lead that we have in the industry. That is like the most senior person in the team. Supporting everybody and giving technical direction. We are more kind of like a glue, to everybody and everyone, between everybody and everyone. I think. Trying to not only give the technical guidance and support that teams need, but also, the guidance for the product teams, our product people, in terms of engineering needs, that their products need to have, and a bit of everything, honestly. Some days I feel like, I need to change light bulbs, because there are so many things that we have to get across. But as I said, the things that I support, even though my job title is engineer lead, I don't think I lead anyone. I support my teams in achieving their great missions. It's mostly around the APIs, that our internet banking systems use. Trying to modernize, our platforms.
Yeah. And you've actually been in quite a key role, I feel like leading the teams that are ripping off the monoliths and converting all of that, really old monoliths to microservices. You've been in the center of it. So it's been, I like watching you from a distance. I feel like it's been quite an exciting journey for you and your time and all the work that you've been doing. Because I think people, it's as cool as it is to kind of convert everything into microservices. I think a lot of people don't realize what a mammoth endeavor it is for a bank that has been running technology for quite some decades. If you're building stuff from brand new, it's very straightforward. But to be able to do that transition, it's a mammoth task, and you've been at the center of it, which is why I thought you would be the best person to talk about this, because majority of my experience has been on front ends. Beyond APIs, I don't understand much, but because your expertise is an API, I think you have a good understanding of front ends and back ends, because you're right in the middle of all of it. We're talking about systems thinking today. So let's start with what is systems thinking. So Pablo, do you want to take a stab at it? What do you think systems thinking is? And then James and I will probably take a stab at it as well.
That's a great topic, because I'll start by saying I am by no means an expert in the things that I'm going to say next, but reading about it, in preparation for today, it's about first, I have to understand what the system is. When you're talking about systems thinking, and because this is a technical podcast, people might just jump straight into the conclusion, right, like it's about the architecture dummy, it's about the software components and things like that. And it's actually like a system. It is about anything, right? Any group of like interacting elements, that need to form a whole is a system. So like we start with that. In our industry, like obviously, it applies to a particular set of elements, which are software components, infrastructure components. Those are systems, in themselves, and then system thinking. Like it is really about seeing the forest from the trees. Like, is that how the English idiom goes? Having that end-to-end landscape view, understanding, if I start poking around here, have like all those unintended consequences throughout the environment, the system. And like, what do we do about it? It's not just about implementing it. It's about implementing it and using it. Observing how people use your system, and then going on that virtuous cycle. Once you understand how people use it, how can we improve it? Get people to keep using it. So on and so forth. So I think it's a good way of define it generically without actually going through IT systems thinking.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. James,
well,
you once wrote a. So the reason we're talking about systems thinking is because James has a fortnightly newsletter. The link is in the show notes. James once talked about systems thinking, and I always read all of James's fortnightly newsletters, by the way. So that's where I got the idea. I was like, this is so cool, James, we should talk about it. And it's been like 4 months, and then we found you 3 months ago. So James, what is your take on systems thinking?
Yeah, look, I'm glad to hear Pablo say, to take it away from technical systems, because I think that's really important. It's not about, system is one of those words that's overloaded a little bit. We can mean system to mean our set of technologies. We can mean system to mean the computer that's sitting in front of us. We can use system to mean, the plumbing in my house. We're really talking about any general system of, like you say, interacting elements. And I think systems thinking is really about taking a high-level approach, being able to know what all the interacting elements are and think in terms of that wider context when you're doing stuff. In terms of software, an example probably most people have hit at some point is, when you're working on a thing or you're testing a thing and you see something that doesn't look right, you start scratching around and you find that this bug goes deeper and deeper and deeper, and you're all of a sudden under the guts of this code. And often it takes talking to someone else or stopping and breathing and doing, thinking about the wider system to actually go, that's one bug that affected one person out of 10,000. Actually, this is a poor use of my time, and we're going to, get better progress towards our organizational goals if we step back from that and think about, actually, is my time being spent in the right place here? That sort of thing.
Yeah. I like how you use the word step back, because that's when you step back and you get distance from the problem, that you can see the bigger picture. You see the system, for it. And in our industry, we have different types of people, working, taking different career paths, right? Some of them are, specialists, and they specialize in that thing, and they go really, really deep. And others, like me, for example, we're more generalists, and we're kind of across, the board, but not necessarily deep in many places or on any single place. So we kind of need this balance, of people, to actually get things delivered, right? And this type of interactions as well. When you get, you're talking about if you get stuck on a problem, trying to solve a bug and have to talk to someone else, sometimes you don't know what you don't know, so like who is it that knows what you don't know, just so that you can ask the next specialist, like in that big landscape, right? Like of your system. So just knowing who knows how to step back and look at the entire picture, is really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a really unique skill set to be able to be someone who dives deep and does detail and is specialized in something, and is also, big picture thinking a lot of the time. Like, yes. I find it really, like, I can do one or the other, both at the same time is hard. Just the nature. It's not a criticism against anyone. It's just the nature of I think the way we work in tech and the way humans are, which is kind of why I see the value of pairing up with people when you're doing work. And when Camy and I both have a background in quality, I think that's one of the real value props that quality engineers bring, is that often they'll pair with engineers. Engineers are diving deep into some stuff, and it's quality that can come and test and say, cool, now how does this interact with these 3 other things that I know about, that I've been thinking about, that you haven't been thinking about because you've been laser focused on this other really important problem. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I think quality engineers and architects as well, like they come from different angles, but like their perspective really is how to see the whole, right? Like
I have a totally different, like, I think I'm going to present a different perspective on systems thinking. And when I was preparing for this episode, I think I was quite focused on technology. And then I came across a TED Talk that is called Adopting Systems Thinking and Design Thinking to Solve Daily Problems. It's by an American Indian lady. It was around 20-minute TED Talk, but it was quite fascinating. And it made me realize and widened my perspective on how we apply systems thinking to our daily lives pretty much every day. I, as an individual, I am an ecosystem. And the way I coordinate myself, like the way I manage my finances, the way I maintain my health, the way I show up at work, my work-life balance, family, children, spouse, it's all a system. And I make several decisions every day that influence all of those systems. And every new initiative that I say yes to has an impact on all the aspects of my life. Like, I might not be able to see them, but it will. And in a lot of cases, it might actually cause, like, if I say yes to an initiative without thinking about it for the next 6 months, like how much time is this going to consume for the next 6 months or for an year, that can actually lead to a lot of anxiety and a lot of burnout down the line. So it was quite good. Like that actually quite widened my perspective. And then, as you guys know, I also organized a testing conference earlier this year. So me and Fabio and other few friends, I think there was another experience where I had to kind of it was like, again, had to think about the big picture, like how is this conference going to look like as a landscape? But then kind of like going into every detail, like how is the catering going to look like? Are we going to be how do we create a sustainable conference model? So that, I'm going off a tangent now, but like my point is like exactly what you guys are saying. Like, systems thinking is so much more than just technology, and we use it and we apply it every day. One thing that I do want to talk about is, this is not a talk on systems architecture, because majority of the YouTube videos and majority of the blogs that I came across when I was preparing for this were on systems architecture. So I think it's worth differentiating systems architecture from systems thinking. What do you think, Pablo?
Absolutely. Like they are completely different things. I think systems architecture, it is like a one application of systems thinking, but it's not the same, right? I like I like how you apply this now to your life, and just as you said, like about burnout and anxiety, like I was thinking about the same thing in my head, because the more things that you say yes to,
yes,
the more busy your life becomes, and you kind of you become an overloaded system. And as we IT professionals know, overloaded systems, they fail.
They overload, right?
They overload. They're not sustainable. Yeah.
So it's a great analogy. No, thank you for using that one.
Yeah, I will share the link for the TED Talk that helped me get there. But yeah, like sorry,
you're talking about the systems architecture, like how is that different from
systems architecture? How is that different from systems thinking? I mean, everyone in IT has come across systems architecture, systems architect, colleagues, like some of my colleagues, ex-colleagues. I think we understand how systems. I think majority of us understand, but it's hard to describe it. But like you said, it is one application of systems thinking.
Yeah, and it's also just like a one facet of like the system. If we're talking about now like a systems architecture, we're talking about a technical system.
Yes.
So like as I said before, I work for BNZ now, banking systems are what we both do day in and day out.
Yeah.
And if I'm thinking about like a systems architecture of like our banking systems, I'm thinking really how the components are gonna talk to each other, how I can modularize the things, how can I use infrastructure XYZ, and so on and so forth. And that's one facet, the technical aspect of it. But I have in my current mission, as I said, we are trying to break down the monoliths inside the bank, to more modern microservice APIs and systems and modular applications. And by doing that, I have to think about the system in a different way. The system for me, it really, if I step back a little bit, it's not just about the technical component, but also about the people in it, and the people in it, they are responsible for watering and feeding them, patching the systems, making sure that our applications are secure. If we have an outage or a failure or something, who are the people that are scheduled, to go and recover those systems, and how, so that our customers, don't suffer, or how we're going to be funding this, on an ongoing basis, because, a system, in a technical sense, like a technical product, it's not something that, I finished coding, it is in cloud provider XYZ, and I can walk away and look and never look back, you have to, for one way or another, to keep looking at it, so that the product, has a long shelf life.
Yes,
we have a vision to improve features for customers, security, that the underlying technology, moves on with time and other things. So that's a second facet, if I'm talking about facet of systems, I'm not just looking at how the technical components fit together, but how the people components, that are operating around that system, they fit together, so starting from how I'm going to get people to pay for it, and how I'm going to get people to fix it and improve it, down the line. So it's a different system around the same objects, the same components, so that's why we should not think about systems thinking and systems architecture, even when we apply it to the IT industry, as the same thing, or purely technical. Our product owners, for example, they apply systems thinking all the time, right? Like when they have their backlogs, roadmaps, for the products, which are about delivering better user experiences, better features, or anything, for the customers. Not necessarily technical, but they have to interact with all parts of like the organization that they're in, so that that backlog item actually becomes a software component. So within their system, so they have to engage with like a legal, they have to engage with finances, they have to engage with engineering, engineering in their system, using system as their life, like as you used before, like engineering is just like one tiny bit,
aspect.
Of their system, and that's what I think is fascinating about systems thinking, because like I started my career as a developer, and I tried specializing in a few things, like and go very deep into technology XYZ, but 3 months later, like there's a new technology advancement, there is a new framework, there's a new language, and it keeps going on and on, right? It's the nature of our industry. One thing that never changes is, like there is value in understanding, like the landscape, and the implementation parts, they are interchangeable, and it's good to know, like how you can balance the two things.
Yeah. So is it correct to say, or would you guys agree if I say like the more landscapes you've been across, which in our case would be like the more teams, the more technologies, the more companies you've worked with, the better systems thinker you will be?
Well, it's the thing about like like when you're evaluating someone's career and experience, like in my position, I have like interviewed like hundreds of people, like for jobs.
Yeah, for jobs.
And like you have to evaluate if a person has 10 years of experience or have 1 years of experience, like a subtle thing, because like you might be just doing the same thing for 10 years, have not learned the lessons, try to grow, acquire the scars that like everybody will get a number of scars, like across their career, and that's how we grow, right? Like we try something, we fail, like we see what went wrong, now we do better next time, like and keep going. But no, sorry, I think like I lost the plot, like for your original question there.
No, I think the question, the reason, I think I've reached a point in my career, and I realized this like maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, because even though I have worked through a few companies, I was still doing exactly the same job. And I've been in contracting for a while, so I've been making good money, but it's not quite rewarding work because it's the same job. And yes, I have the discipline expertise and I get paid very well for it, but like it's not rewarding work, because I think rewarding work is where you're constantly growing, you're learning something new. And for me at this stage is to become like to understand the systems more, to become more it's like specialization versus generalization. Like when people with a decade or 2 decades of experience, they have enough discipline expertise, enough specialization. But then to be able to become something more, to be able to grow your career, you have to start generalizing and start understanding the systems. And like majority of the projects that I now want to work on are outside my comfort zone. Like my expertise is mostly on mobile, but like for the last couple of years, I've been working more on like web and APIs. And at some stage, I would probably be keen to work on like backend systems as well, just so that you understand the landscape a bit more. And banks, oh my gosh, banking, Pablo. I don't know, James, if you've been in banking, but banks are such a complex system. Like, oh my goodness. I mean, of course, we move slow, but we move slow because there is so much legislation that is applied on us. It's so complex. And as someone who's been in banking for a decade now, like when people say banks move slow, and I'm like, dude, you got to come and work at a bank to understand like how complex banking systems are. I don't know if like modern banks are that complex as well. But geez,
you're always going to have that legislation and stuff, right? Like if that's what's slowing you down, doesn't matter how cool your bank is.
Yeah, like the legal, the compliance, like there is so much of it. And it is all for like correct reasons. We're dealing with people's money, like we're like transferring your bucks from here to there every day.
Yeah. But that legislation, those requirements are all part of that system. Yes. And understanding that is going to make you a better engineer, a better product manager, a better tester, whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah. One of the things that I have noticed in my career is like move fast. And I think maybe, James, we've talked about this before, like moving fast and breaking things, like that doesn't apply to every system. It might apply to Uber or Facebook or Netflix, but it doesn't apply to banks. Like, no, banks are not the system where you can move fast and break things. So like even the DevOps culture and us moving to on-demand releases, it's taken a while. And like you were saying, like it takes even for our business partners, for our product owners, it takes a lot of planning in terms of business and customer value for us to be able to move to a model where we can straight through release, like we can take a change from our developer's machine to production within a day. It's taken quite a long time because the systems are so complex. I mean, that's been my experience.
Yeah. And you don't actually have to go only onto the banking and finance industry, to see how things are complex. I don't know if both of you are on Twitter. I am, and I've been.
For now.
Yeah, me too.
So I've never signed up on Twitter, and I'm not going to.
It's not the best time. But interestingly, I came across, my feed, the other day, a whiteboard of the poor engineers that are, having to explain to Elon Musk, how the architecture actually works, and it is not making any judgment of character or value on anyone. I have my opinions on Elon, and I'm gonna share that in
your restraint.
So, but the fact is, he is not a systems thinker. People. I think people might believe that he is, but spending $44 billion, and immediately firing. How many percent of the company? Without really understanding first, what their jobs were, how do they fit into the system, because it is just a little mobile app, how difficult could it be, we probably just needed 5 people to run the entire operation. So now there is this fear that is going on in the past few days that they're if there is an outage, they might not actually have enough people to come back from it. I feel sorry for them.
Yeah, and I'm not one to leap to the defense of Elon Musk at all. But saying that he's not a systems thinker assumes that his intent is for Twitter to succeed and be successful. He may be a great systems thinker, and he just wants Twitter to fail or have some other agenda. Who knows?
Could be that.
That's actually a very good segue to one of my questions that I had. What would be the qualities? What would be the positive qualities of a great systems thinker? Something that comes to my mind is an incredible amount of patience and the ability to learn and self-correct, to realize that I made a mistake and I can self-correct. Don't be like Elon Musk and fire the people who don't agree with you. Because eventually you want your system to succeed, right? It is an ecosystem. It's a landscape that you're building that your customers can use. Not only the organization, but obviously the organization will make money off it and will thrive, but also the customers need to stay in that ecosystem for it to be a sustainable system for everyone to work. So as a creator of that system or someone who is involved in that, systems thinking at that level, what qualities can people develop or people can be self-conscious of so that they can become systems thinker? I'm keen to become a systems thinker at some stage. So that's why I'm asking the question. What are your takes?
Big question, and it's an interesting one because I've often talked in the context of someone having the quality of being a systems thinker rather than what are the qualities that make them that. So that's a really thought-provoking question. I definitely look at sort of some of the output of someone who I know is good at systems thinking. And, that is in things of being able to communicate their thinking really, really well and really clearly, articulating why they're making a decision. Because often, if someone's not engaging that systems thinking part of their brain, you can get them to by asking probing questions and, why are you working on this? How many users is it going to affect? What's the impact? What's the cost? All those sort of questions will start to, pull that out. And so I guess being able to ask those questions of yourself is what will engage that systems thinking muscle. Pablo, I'll let you cut in before I rant.
So I actually had a little diagram that I drew here on my notes. What I was looking for while we were talking, because the why, like in the communication, it is really core to everything. And I had in my notes here, I had a note on technical leadership prioritization frameworks, to work on. So it's one of the things that I was studying in the past, and a great technical lead, or manager, needs to communicate in a way that the why is first and foremost, in everything. People need to understand, the why. Yes. Because if people don't understand, your purpose, where you're coming from, and are not buying into your mission, the rest doesn't matter, right? Yeah. So the great communicator starts saying, "Oh, why we need to do this," and then you can segue into the how and the what, so how we are going to do that, what needs to be done to do those things, but why, is central in your communication. And that goes into the second thing that I find, great systems thinkers need to have is the empathy. Yes. So be very empathetic, and just really put yourself into other people's shoes. We talk about the importance of diversity in our industry, and it comes down to empathy, because you need to empathize, with the needs of different people coming from different backgrounds, different perspectives, different needs, and once you have all of those, and empathize with them, absorb them, internalize, those needs and those experiences and those skills, that's when you can actually build a great system and see the whole. One example of empathy in system was I'm a cyclist, and a commuter cyclist, and I like to cycle to work, and my entire family likes to cycle to places, and I am sometimes afraid for my life and for my family's life, on the road. Even though I'm a middle-aged man, white person, have been cycling my entire life, still scares me. In this system, thinking about transport, and you get and maybe I have to add that later, Camy, because I'm kind of spitballing a little bit here. But in the system of transport, the perspectives of a successful, so the perspectives of women and children, and and designing a transport system for people from age 8 to 80, that's a transport engineer that coined that, a great transport system, works for people from 8 to 80. That's like when you see the system working. So you see like I'm putting like a different people into that system, right? Like like children, elderly, women, like and specifically talking about women because unfortunately our society, like women, still get the brunt of like the family work, transporting children to school, to and from school, and so on and so forth, and so they are with like babies and so on. So now that I see, for example, in Wellington, like we see like more and more like mothers, like carrying their kids, to daycare, to school on their bikes. It's a measure of success on the transport system. Because we see that the more vulnerable people or the more diverse people, like are getting their needs met. So like that's when you. So going back to your original question, like what are the great things about the systems thinker?
Empathy.
You're building a system, think about everyone. Like I use the term facet, like before, look from different angles, different facets, take different needs into consideration. I'm just really like a middle-aged man, like I can only think like just that one way because I only have like my experiences. I need other people to challenge, like and help me grow.
Yeah, I think that's a great example. So something similar that comes to my mind is, again, going back to the conference that we organized. So when we organized catering, it was around 250 people, and we asked people what their options were. And there were a large number of people who had like vegetarian, gluten-free. Some of them were diabetic, so they were like dairy, gluten-free, everything. There was like a very diverse group. And we spent at least 8 hours of planning to make sure each and every person has an amazing experience. Like we don't want people who have specific needs to, like not come at the conference next year. So our catering lead actually took time. Like he had such incredible amount, MJ, he had such incredible amount of empathy towards people with diverse dietary needs that he actually sent them emails before the conference telling them, like giving them all the instructions. So he just like went above and beyond. And some of the people, like after the conference, some of the people walked up to us and they said thank you to us. They were one of our friends, Joe, was like, I have never been to a conference before where someone has contacted me the day before about my dietary needs and assured me that my food will be there and it will be at this particular location. I know, it was just like the amount of planning MJ, I, and Fabio put into it, like 8 hours, just on catering. It was insane. But, like when people walked up to us and they thanked us, it was so worth it. It was so worth it. And like the catering of the event was absolutely fabulous. Like everyone like loved the food. So yeah, that's like another example. So yeah, no, I'm pretty glad that you brought up empathy. I think having a vision, like I usually think systems thinkers as visionaries. Like because not everyone has a vision. I don't know if you can, like vision is something that you can develop with age and experience, but I think some people are built for like big picture thinking. But then that again goes back to that I think, especially in technology and engineering, you still need to have discipline expertise or the depth of knowledge on at least one technology to be able to get to that level where you can quickly understand the entire landscape. I think that's why I was kind of like bringing up the vision part. But again, I think having a specialization in something is also important because I think that's how you learn patient to be patient, to self-correct yourself. Also, like, I mean, in IT, I think you also need a little bit of academic intelligence, which majority of us have because we work with computers. We are full-on nerds. You definitely need academic intelligence as well a little bit. James, do you have some thoughts going on?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Let me think about that for a second. I think you could be, because I would say when I'm in the room with some of my engineers, I am not the smartest person in the room, not by a long way. So academic intelligence, I think, is a term.
Yeah.
I wouldn't take that as you must,
Yeah, no. It's a tiny
your
part.
Bachelor of Engineering with a straight A
Yeah.
You know,
No.
it's because I think you can have emotional intelligence too and be high on that end of the pendulum instead. Pendulum.
Yeah.
And probably there's a meeting of both of those things that come together in terms of being a good systems thinker. And that's some of what we talked about already, the empathy and that sort of thing. Certainly academic intelligence will be a factor, but that can mean many different things.
Yeah.
I could be an academic in engineering, or I could be an academic in philosophy. But, you know, different systems, but still systems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I think, and this was our last episode when we talked to Alicia, right? The ability to be able to take feedback, be able to take criticism. I think that's also incredibly important at a systems thinker's level. And again, it goes back to like having enough empathy to be able to think about everyone in the first place. But if you missed out, then being humble enough to accept that, yes, this does not work for it, I will build a better system next time. So having that self-awareness and that ability to self-correct and being humble enough to take on that feedback, I think that's important too.
Yeah, I really like that, because as a systems, you know, when you're thinking in terms of systems, the criticism is of the system.
Yes.
It's not of you personally.
No.
And that's how I will differentiate that. And that kind of feels better. I'm also a person who makes a ton of mistakes, and I'm pretty used to, you know, oh, you've done that wrong, go and course correct. But I definitely find that is a thing that helps, is that it's a criticism not of me personally, it's of the stuff around what we're doing.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you guys have read or listened to the book about Lululemon. So how Lululemon started or established their business. So Jeff Wilson is a founder of Lululemon. So he wrote his book. It's called Little Black Stretchy Pants, because Lululemon's is the leggings business. And I absolutely love Lululemon leggings because they're quite expensive, but they last for a very long time. So for me, I was like, I wanted to learn, like, how did he manage to build a system, and how can he kind of like produce leggings that are so expensive but last for such a long time, and people are willing to pay so much price. Like someone like me is willing to pay $170, $180 for a piece of legging. Like, how come? So I know it's quite expensive, but they do last you like 2 to 3 years. Like, you get so much wear out of it. Like, I'm someone who, again, going like a total tangent, I'm someone who kind of like calculates the cost per wear. Like, when I spend way too much money on something, I look at the cost per wear. So when you spend good money on a pair of shoes, pair of jeans, and if it lasts you for a long time, then your cost per wear is like 10 cents, 20 cents. So it's totally worth it. Like, that's what my mentality is when I spend good money on something. I've been doing it for like 5, 6, 7 years now, and it's become like autopilot. Anyways, off tangent, bringing it back. Jeff Wilson's book, Little Black Stretchy Pants, is quite a good book to read, how he built the entire Lululemon business. Like, it's $1 billion business at this stage. And just like selling leggings. But his entire journey, and he was not just about starting a business. He wanted to build a system where he can help people rise above mediocrity. So what he calls mediocrity is like the retail, people who work in retail usually, or the way business retail stores operate is just like pretty mediocre. Like the employees do not get anything out of that system. They're in and out of jobs all the time. But he actually wanted to build a system where he would bring on people, and he would train them. Like they pretty much, all of Lululemon employees, they go through extensive training, and they have pretty much like their own hierarchy structure, pretty good salaries. Like, they make way more money than you would make on an average retail store. Like, his book is just so fascinating. Like, this guy was not just building a system. He was not just building a business that would make $1 billion, but he was actually building a system where he could bring in people, bring in like 20-year 20-year-old who does yoga, and show her this amazing life path to rise above mediocrity. And some of his employees who started from like the floor, like people who sell stuff, they have gone on to become kind of like managing directors of like this particular branch. It's amazing. Like if you ever get a chance to listen or read that book, Little Black Stretchy Pants, that actually was quite a good book. Anyways,
I'll read it. I'll add it to the list. I've never worn anything Lululemon. I don't know if
it's a good book about business and systems thinking. Like at least that's my opinion. Bringing back to what we are about, technology and engineering. I think we've kind of like talked about how can engineers incorporate systems thinking to advance in their career. Like I think we've talked about it. Do you guys think anything we haven't covered or specific to
something? And this is just the timing of these recordings is always a little bit serendipitous. Yesterday, some people from our sales team were in town. And so I went with them to sort of watch how they do their sales pitch. Something I've never seen before. Cost 2 hours of my life. But that 2 hours has greatly impacted the way I view what we build and how we build it. And that is a part of, I guess, that systems overview that I'm missing, or was missing. Because now I know how they're selling it. I know how important it is that this feature they demo every time that we didn't think anyone used actually needs to work and be beautiful. You know, that's a contrived example, but you kind of get what I mean. And so I think if you want to be a good systems thinker, you need to sort of add strings to your bow, figure out, engage with your marketing team, engage with your support, success, whatever other teams are there, and know a bit about what they're doing. And this kind of is, we talked a couple of episodes ago about being T-shaped and getting that top of the T all sort of sorted out.
Having, the view, like in both examples that you use now, a Lululemon and your personal example, James, and then having the view from outside in, is critical. I've just been holding here on my head another thing that I was getting from my notes, which I don't remember where I got it from, but it's a pyramid of of skills. Where we have at the base of the pyramid, you're talking about academic intelligence and other things. That's where it triggered me.
Yes.
At the base of the pyramid, and I have the core knowledge of the system. And you have your specialist skills and other things that you need to execute the functions within that system. On top of that, on a smaller scale, you have your communication skills, how you do presentations, how you demonstrate things, whiteboard, or sell things, that's a very important skill to have. And getting to the next level of this pyramid, how you apply it to the industry, or to your company, your organization, how you do stakeholder management, how you mentor people, how you work with teams, you negotiate, you apply, your knowledge and your communication, to, that system. And at the very top, just circling back to what James said earlier, your emotional intelligence, the tip of the pyramid, your ability to listen and anticipate things, challenge, inspire people when they need, tell a story, and other things. And so so I don't know if that pyramid is called anything. If not, I'm gonna coin it the systems thinker pyramid.
I'm pretty sure I have seen that pyramid as well. It popped up on my LinkedIn or something, or maybe when I was researching. But yes, it's academic intelligence at the basic or base, and then emotional intelligence. And that's it, right? Having a vision and then being able to design that vision, and then having enough skills on the emotional intelligence side to be able to pitch and sell that vision to other 100 people, that's an amazing skill. And it takes a long time, and a lot of empathy. Like, I'm really glad you incorporated the empathy aspect into it, Pablo, because I think that's one of the key things that we keep on kind of like missing out, like the empathy aspect, right? One of the other things I think you've already mentioned is also the ability to identify anti-patterns. Talking about anti-patterns, with my experience, when we onboard third-party vendors or we onboard third-party tools, from experience, I have learned that you need to be able to identify all the anti-patterns, because sometimes the anti-patterns will not appear within the first year of use or the second year of use, but maybe within 5 years of use. Like down the line, you might have accumulated so many anti-patterns because of that particular tool or that particular way of working that it's almost unsustainable to continue on to be able to work this way. And that's when, like you have to do like a total tools down restructure. And I think a lot of people find themselves in these situations. So and again, I think it goes back to that, having that incredible amount of self-awareness and the ability to self-correct yourself and accepting that I can be wrong, and someone will definitely prove me wrong one day. Yeah, that's what I keep on reminding myself, Camy. No, you will be wrong. Someone will prove you wrong one day, for sure. Anyways, it's been a long conversation, Pablo. Like, we were aiming for 45 minutes. We are already at 15 minutes. Because you've been preparing for a few months. Is there anything that you've got for us, extra bonus that we've missed?
Well, one thing that I was watching earlier today, that is an example of a system. That's nothing really related to the chat, but it's just like my favorite, tech talk of all time, and that shaped my career, very early on. Showing a bit my age here, that talk was from before I was in uni, but it was a talk. I think it was in the early 90s. So it's called Growing a Language by Guy Steele. Not sure if either of you have watched it.
I haven't.
But he starts the talk describing how you create a language, and the way that he delivers, it is just like a journey, a mental journey, and at the exact 8-minute mark, the penny drops, and it's the most beautiful thing. So, if you take a step back, and look what he's trying to deliver, in growing a language in itself is a system, right? A system of words that have meaning, together form sentences that we use to communicate, and they have to work together. The concerns that they had, about about programming languages and how to deliver it, was the way that they deliver it, it's just was a fantastic talk, maybe a big nerd for programming languages, but it's just it was one of the most fun tech talks that I ever watched, and you don't have to be technical at all to watch it. The first 8 minutes, it's just all that you need to watch, and it's going to change your life. I promise.
It is so interesting because one of the other talks that I watched was from Jessica Kerr from Devoxx Poland in 2021. This was systems thinking for developers. And majority of the talk talked about, I think, World War and some of the people who were involved in building bombs and stuff. Again, it had not much to do with developers, but the way she tried to explain it, systems thinking, it was just fascinating. It's like an hour talk, and I listened to it because I was just like, actually, it does make sense. This makes so much sense. This has been quite a good conversation, and I think a lot of us are at that stage where we kind of are struggling, what's next for us and how do we grow, and regardless of whether people want to move into leadership roles or not, or into engineering leadership roles or not, I think everyone wants to grow and trying to incorporate a little bit of systems thinking is a good thing. Like for me, I think I'm trying to apply it to myself as an ecosystem, like the way I started this episode. Like how do I make smarter decisions, like smarter financial decisions, smarter work decisions, smarter family decisions. Like how do I maintain work-life balance and I make smarter decisions so that I don't burn out, I don't create unnecessary anxiety. And if I can take that approach that I'm applying to my system, to the systems I work at work, I think that's a good starting point, at least for me. Yeah. Any last words from you two before we wrap this up on systems thinking?
I think you've summed that up pretty well.
Thanks, James.
Yeah.
Just be curious. Do not ever be afraid of asking questions.
Yeah.
The whole thing about the 5 whys, to get to the bottom of something. Yeah. It is the smallest thing that you can do, to start your journey into systems thinking. Yeah. Why this? Because of that. Why is that other thing? And why is the next thing? Why is the next thing? Funny. You start building a picture. Ask questions is good. Learning new facts. I
totally agree. Like always ask why, and don't be the person, if people do ask you why, always be the person who respects the question and answers the why. Because I've found it might be especially if it is a system that I design, if it's the code that I wrote and someone asked me why I did it 2 years ago, I might get a little bit arrogant and try to shut them down or become defensive. There is a natural reaction, but it takes a lot of self-awareness to realize that, hey, I actually could be wrong. And this person is trying to show me to do this thing a better way. Anyways, before I go off more tangents and prolong this show, Pablo, thank you so much for joining us. I really enjoyed this conversation.
I appreciate having me for this conversation.
You are our first guest from BNZ. I am really glad we had at least someone come from the place I work at. Hopefully more people next time. But thank you so much, Pablo. And James, thank you so much.
Thank you,
as always.
My friend. All right.
Yeah.
And of course, you need to do the like and subscribe.
Like, share, subscribe, which is just like one liner. Please like, share, and subscribe. Pablo, thank you so much for joining us again. And we'll see everyone in a fortnight or so. Bye.
Thank you all. See us.
Bye.